detriment of New Zealand as a whole. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Eugenie Sage.
Chair. The Green Party continues to oppose this bill, and partly because of the speed with which it's been pushed through the Select Committee. And the fact that 1 in 3 farmers voted against the Trading Amongst Farmers shows the very knotty issues that the committee should have had more time to deal with. And the Minister was saying that those opposing the bill are assuming that dairy farmers are stupid. But the fact again that 1 in 3 farmers didn't vote for Trading Amongst Farmers shows that there are a lot of intelligent people who have major issues with the bill. And we also oppose it because it undermines potentially undermines the successful operation of Fonterra as New Zealand's most financially successful cooperative through that whole issue of the shareholders being able to sell their shares into this fund and then getting outside investors in. But, Mr. Chair, I'd like to correct something that the member for Kaikoura, Colin King, he didn't correctly represent our position in opposing this bill. He claimed that we wanted to cap the number of dairy farms in New Zealand. That's not true. We want to cap the number of dairy farms in particular catchments in our lowland streams, lowland lakes, where intensification of land use is having major effects on water quality. And Mr. Chair, last month, David Bruce of the Otago Daily Times reported that Southdown Holdings and Williamson Holdings, the 2 companies that were behind the very controversial cubicle cow proposals to milk 11,000 cows in the Mackenzie Basin, had folded and gone into voluntary liquidation. Richard Peacock, the Mount Maunganui businessman who was behind Southdown Holdings, was reported as saying the shareholders living in Australia made, quote, a commercial decision, unquote, that it was too hard and that they would do something else. Well, that, Mr. Chair, was a very good decision for the spring-fed streams and wetlands of the Mackenzie Basin and for Lake Benmore. But the fact that thousands of people had to get involved in the RMA process, had to point out the environmental inappropriateness of dairying in the drought-prone Mackenzie Basin highlights a major defect in this bill.
Can the member just address part 1 of the bill?
Yes, and that is that it fails to amend the substantive act to allow Fonterra to be strategic about the expansion of its supplier base so that it does not have to collect milk from areas such as the Mackenzie, where dairying in a dry, drought-prone region will affect waterways and biodiversity and will be very difficult. So, Mr. Chair, by allowing non-shareholders to buy units in the TAF fund, their focus will be on maximising the dividend return. Mr. Chair, the focus then of the directors and their fiduciary duty is to provide a return to those shareholders. So the bill, by not allowing Fonterra to be strategic about where it collects milk, will mean there's potentially more pressure on the company to continue to grow its milk supply, regardless of the impact that that has on waterways and water quality. So that's another of the reasons that the Green Party opposes the bill. My colleague Stephen Browning will deal with the SOPs and the concerns we have about those. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Mark Mitchell.
Mr. Chair, I move that the question be now